And when you use sea salt or Celtic salt, you don't need a lot. Because of the high mineral content, you really need a very little bit. It's very flavorful, very tasty. They say the most milligrams. Now in the hospitals, they're putting them on what's called a 2-gram sodium intake diet. Sodium meaning salt. Gram is 1,000 milligrams. So 2 would be 2,000 milligrams. According to the Health Power book and other books I've read, we should only have 500 milligrams a day. So even what the hospitals are giving is too much sodium. But if you're using the healthy salt, you can use a little more than a teaspoon. They're talking about the regular table salt. Now, why don't we want to use the table salt?
It's depleted from the mineral.
That's right. What is in table salt?
Iodine, magnesium.
Sodium, chloride, and iodine. That's it. How many is that?
3.
3. How many did I say there were supposed to be?
80.
At least 80. It's like 80, 84. Something like that. So that causes an imbalance in the body. Salt is essential, we are told, into making good blood. What else causes high blood pressure? Does anyone know what K plus is?
Potassium.
Increased potassium levels will cause your high blood pressure to go really high. And that's why when people are on diuretics, they'll give them a potassium supplement. Because what happens is, sodium is an extracellular. Remember we talked about that a few weeks ago? It's an extracellular mineral, which means it's on the outside of the cell. What would potassium be? Na equals sodium.
Would it be intracellular?
That's right. Potassium equals, this is potassium. It's intracellular, which means it's on the inside of the cell. When you're lacking the potassium, what do you think is going to replace it? The sodium. And what follows sodium? Water, right?
Yes.
When you get salty and what do you want? You want water. Water follows sodium. So if you have the sodium replacing the potassium going inside the heart, you're going to have a whole bunch of fluid. And so it causes the pressure to go up. So potassium is very, 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 it's a crucial element for high blood pressure.
So it's increase of potassium, right?
Decrease, a decrease of potassium. It's a decrease of potassium. Because remember, when you have lack of potassium, the sodium takes its place. Right, a decrease of potassium. Does anyone know, you know this one, what the #1 source of potassium is?
Bananas.
Somebody said bananas. Any other suggestions?
Orange.
Kale.
Someone said oranges, someone said kale. Let me read to you what the #1 source of potassium is. The #1 plant source of potassium is blackstrap molasses. It's right here in the book. And it has 2,492 milligrams per 100 edible grams. That means it has a lot. So if somebody's low in potassium, give them 1 to 2 tablespoons of blackstrap molasses if they're not a diabetic. It's excellent. Remember I did a phenom? Well, what's this week's homework?
To reap the benefits.
The health nugget? That's right, the benefits of blackstrap molasses. Because molasses can really help a heart patient. Somebody who is suffering, even if they, let's say they take castor oil too much, like my daughter did, and she had to have potassium replaced because she was doing this constantly all day. If I would have known about the blackstrap molasses, I would have given it to her. I would have given her the blackstrap molasses to replace her potassium instead of letting them give her the supplement form in the IV that they put into her arm. But it's excellent. What is the second leading? Let's see. Oh, and blackstrap molasses is the second leading source of calcium. So if you're low in potassium and you're low in calcium, That's wonderful stuff. Okay, it's very high in iron as well. Now, who said bananas? That has 396 milligrams. That is actually the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14. It's actually not on here. There's other foods. Soybeans is in second. Wheat germ. Squash seeds, pumpkin seeds, avocado, dates, spinach, potatoes, fennel, broccoli, carrots, endive, celery, asparagus, whole grain bread, coconut milk, red tomato, melon, grape, and cucumbers.
That's number 2.
Okay, bananas actually should be on here, but they don't have them listed. They should be between the potatoes and the fennel. They have 500 milligrams per 100 edible grams. Okay? Avocado is the #1 leading fruit for vitamin E. Vitamin E is very, very, very important for the heart. You ever heard when people are taking like CoQ10, coenzyme Q10? That's Japanese give that for people who have heart problems, or they have with congestive heart failure or some type of heart problem. They always give the vitamin E to balance it out. Vitamin E is very, very crucial for heart health. So instead of getting the supplements, remember we're trying to get away from the supplements, what do you eat? Eat an avocado. Let me just show you. I think it's in this book. Do we want to eat 2 and 3 avocados at a meal?
No.
Absolutely not. Okay, page 108. Let me see if there's something in here. I think it's in my other book. No, it's the other book. So let me quiz you. What's the highest source of potassium? Blackstrap molasses. How many milligrams does it have?
2,400.
2,972.
Might as well say
No, 2,492. And it is the second leading source of what? Calcium. So when people say, well, where do you get your calcium? Sesame seeds, blackstrap molasses. Now, what food did I just say for vitamin E?
Avocado.
Avocado. So, low vitamin E can cause heart disease, heart attacks, hypertension. Okay? Almonds have 732 milligrams of potassium. They are considered the highest in potassium of all nuts. Well, they're actually called the king of the nuts.
Okay, yeah.
So almonds are high in potassium. So if a person's diabetic and they can't get the blackstrap molasses, you can give them avocado, it's high in potassium and vitamin E. You can give them almonds. You can give them dates. You can give them the foods. Just go get a chart and find out what foods are high in the mineral that the body needs. Okay? Tofu and soybeans, soybean is the second highest in potassium. They have 1,797 milligrams. Now, what kind of soybean do we want?
Organic.
Non-GMO.
Non-GMO.
Non-GMO. Because it could say organic, but it still be GMO. Because it's the way they use organic soil or something, but they can still genetically modify it. You want to make sure it says non-genetically modified. Okay. We talked about too much fluid. We talked about the potassium balance in the body. Let me see, Dennis. What you got on the back side here? Oh, I skipped a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Oh, here's one thing. If you're on blood pressure medication and you're sitting down, or anyone you know, and they go to get up and they get dizzy, they need their blood pressure medication lowered or discontinued. So they need their blood pressure checked. They need to go check with the doctor, because that's called orthostatic hypertension. Oh, and one more thing. Last week, when I was talking about cholesterol and stuff, or I did the health nugget, I was talking about rhinorrhea and rhinitis. Rhinorrhea is the runny nose. I had called rhinitis the runny nose as well. That's congestion, nose and head congestion. I just wanted to clarify that. Now, what 3 sources do we study from?
Bible, spiritual prophecy, and
Science.
Scientific
Amen,
results.
amen. Great cause. Okay. Now, just one little brief review. What did we say are the levels that's considered high blood pressure?
Above 135.
Very good. And what did we say? So this is hypertension, which is high blood pressure. What did we say is pre-hypertension?
135
121 to 129
over 80.
over 81 to 84. If you have these levels, now, do both levels have to be high in order to be
No.
considered hypertensive?
No.
No. Now, just because you have high blood pressure today doesn't mean you can have high blood pressure tomorrow. Somebody in your family could have died. You could have been in a car accident. You might have had to go to a doctor visit. Did you know that when you go to the doctors, people's blood pressure increases like 10 points? Were you guys aware of that? Because they're nervous. They're afraid of what the doctor's going to tell them. If you get into an argument, if you're stressed, these are factors. So just because you have high blood pressure today doesn't mean you're hypertensive. They like to check you 3 days in a row or 3 times in a row. It may not be 3 days in a row. They may tell you to come back in 4 days and come back in another 4 days. They might tell you to come back 3 days in a row. I think it's smart to tell them to come back 4 or 5 days later, because that stress you're going through could last 3 days. You know what I'm saying? Or if you lost a loved one, you can be stressing over that for 3 or 4 days. So, but just one reading does not diagnose you to have hypertension. You have to have several readings. Okie dokie. Okay. Now, what did we say? If you were to come to my house and my faucet was turned on and my sink was plugged and the water was overflowing, what would be the first thing you would do?
Turn off the faucet.
Turn off the faucet. So, how do you turn off the faucet?
change the diet.
What do we say causes hypertension?
Salt.
High cholesterol.
Salt, high cholesterol. High cholesterol is like the major culprit for hypertension. So what do you do for people who are hypertensive?
Remove the culprit.
You remove the culprit. So you remove animal products. Remove all animal products. Now, am I telling everyone to become a vegan or 100% plant-based person? No. We're dealing with people who have high blood pressure, right? We're trying to get to the root of the disease. Now, a few things that I forgot to cover as far as what causes hypertension. Another thing that causes it is obesity. Now, does that mean everyone who's obese has high blood pressure?
No.
No. But this is a major culprit for hypertension. Why is that? Does anyone remember?